morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment of Monday Reload. From very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy, very snowy Monday morning. It never fails during the legislative session when I take a long weekend. I wake up on the day I'm supposed to go back, and it's snowing. We begin this morning with a little celebration. Over the weekend, Cowboy State Politics achieved 325,000 downloads. Once again, something that no other podcast in the state of Wyoming has done. And obviously, all of it is thanks to you. Thank you very much for listening. For over 800 episodes, Cowboy State Politics has been exposing the Wyoming left, no matter what letter they hang at the end of their names. And quite frankly, the longer the legislative session goes on, the harder it is to tell who's who. And let me give you an example. Over the weekend, Sheridan Media published at least part of an interview with Wyoming Senate President Bo Beitman. It's a little bit unclear what question Beitman was asked, but his answer is revealing on multiple levels. Here's what he said.
The crown jewel is Senate File 69, the Revenue Committee's interim work on property tax relief. As you know, it's been a long time coming. We've been working on this for years. We got it to the governor's desk last session, and he vetoed it because of the backfill language that was in there. The Senate was able to pass 50% property tax relief for residential properties in Wyoming for the Wyoming people. We delivered what they wanted. It was a clean bill. We sent it over to the House with a very substantial majority. So we're very pleased on that.
The crown jewel, he says. All right, we'll go with that. Now, don't forget the reason that some senators gave for voting for Senate File 69. I keep going back to this article, but the reason I do is it's very clear what the intentions of some Wyoming senators are. For example, Senator Slithers from the Cow Pie in an article entitled, Legislature Explores How to Slash Taxes Without Gutting Schools and Local Services. And I quote, Senator Tara Nethercott told the Cowboy State Daily that she supports removing the local backfills as a way of helping voters understand the cause and effect relationship between taxes levied and services rendered, which they can make future decisions based on. Quote, and listen very carefully here, we want to find the right policy so people can understand the connection between property tax and services offered more correctly, so the people who want tax relief can have a better understanding of the consequences and the lack of that tax revenue from fiscal policy. End quote. So they can understand the consequences. Got it. Senator Bill Landon pretty much said the same thing. Take a listen.
It's gonna hurt our local communities. No doubt about it. But you know what? If people don't understand that we're cutting services today, then we have to help them understand that. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
And then there's Nancy Case.
This would be the backfill.
The backfill.
And I would support removing the backfill. I think if we're going to create a crisis, let's create a crisis.
So there's competing motivations, at the very least. And this business being the crown jewel of all of the work they did in the interim. Senate File 69 is pretty much the same thing as the People's Initiative. So tell me again how much work they actually did in the off-season. It seems to me that they just copied off somebody else's paper and then called it good. But be that as it may, one might argue that the whole reason behind the People's Initiative was to force the legislature to do something, to actually put out some form of a tax reduction. And if that's the case, it kind of worked. I've said for a long time that any discussion of tax relief without an accompanying reduction in spending is kind of a meaningless conversation, because it's the spending that drives the taxes. It's pretty obvious that counties aren't interested at all in reducing property taxes, because they'd have to reduce their spending. And property taxes go to fund county government. Not a dime of property taxes actually goes to the state of Wyoming. The state is funded by other revenue streams: minerals, sales taxes, fuel taxes, etc. During floor debate during Committee of the Whole on Senate File 69 in the House, Landon Brown said this.
So cutting another 50% of the revenue from property taxes on this is going to make it hurt even worse. And I just heard the good representative. I appreciate the statement that this decision might be made for us by the voters. All I can say is, Lord, help us if that's the case.
Now that's a bit of an odd comment. Lord help us if the voters make this decision for them. You don't suppose he's referring to his own political future, which, by the way, is already hanging by a thread, something about defending a convicted rapist. Anyway, we'll continue with the program in just a second. But first, an absolutely outrageous profit timeout. It's a whopping 2 below zero at the Cowboy State Politics studio. In a couple of hours, I've got to get on the road and head back to the Middle Swamp. In my winter survival pack in my car, I always keep a pair of Buffalo Wool Company socks. You never know when something's going to happen, and you always want to be prepared. And the best way to make sure that your feet stay nice and toasty warm is with a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you're definitely not going to be disappointed. Monday Reload is also brought to you by Morton Buildings. They are the experts in metal building construction. They've been doing it longer than anybody else around, and they definitely do a much better job. So it doesn't matter if you're thinking about a garage or a barn or maybe something bigger for your property. The two guys you need to talk to are Nick and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out on their website, mortonbuildings.com. The Wyoming Cartridge Company is a Sheridan-based ammunition manufacturer. They make a quality product at a fair price. And I can tell you for a fact, my friends, I've burned through several boxes of Wyoming Cartridge Company ammunition, and it holds a pattern just as tight as any other ammunition that you're going to get off the shelf. Go to their website, wyocc.com. That's the Wyoming Cartridge Company. I mean, come on, you're going to buy ammunition anyway. You may as well buy it from a Wyoming manufacturer. And now, back to the program. They didn't get a whole heck of a lot done on Senate File 69 during Committee of the Whole. It wasn't until second reading that Representative Ken Clouston brought an idea on maybe a fix to this whole property tax problem. Essentially, the problem is that there are some counties in this state where property taxes have gone up over 100%, while at the same time there are counties where property taxes increased as little as 6%. So if we were to just go with what Senator Beitman called the crown jewel, some counties, those 8 so-called hardship counties, would see a dramatic decrease in their overall revenue. While it's true that all government spends too much, some counties spend less than others. For example, some counties, like Sheridan County, apparently have enough cash laying around that they can spend $3 million on a stupid, ugly flower pot, while at the same time, other counties are struggling to keep the lights on. The right balance, though, whatever that may be, is that government should only spend so much money as is absolutely necessary to cover the necessary functions of government. We all like nice streets to drive on, and we probably should have a police force, and it might be a good idea to have a fire department. But it is not the role of government to provide golf courses or recreation centers or civic centers. While I'm sure those things are nice to have, it's not the job of government. And if the loss of those things is your chief argument why we shouldn't do this tax cut, they should be the first things to go. Here's Stacey Jones during debate on Senate File 69 on the Senate floor.
One of our mayors did have a post yesterday, and some of the things that we're looking at losing in the southwest part of the state is lost jobs. We might be losing our civic center, losing our rec center, closing a softball complex, which is used by adults and children.
Things got pretty contentious in the House during Committee of the Whole, but it wasn't until second reading that they actually got some work done. Ken Clouston from Gillette offered an amendment that I'm pretty sure goes a lot of the way towards fixing the tax problem. It, too, has some problems, which I'll talk about in just a second. But first, here's Clouston's presentation of his amendment.
And what I did is said, when I sat down Saturday morning, I said, what's our problem? Our problem is since 2019, some of our counties and residencies have seen a massive increase in property taxes, but others haven't. So we heard friends of ours in Niobrara County, since 2019, their taxes have gone up 6%. If we give them a 50% cut, they're getting a 44% benefit. My house has gone up 28%. So if you give me a 50% cut, I'm getting a 22% benefit.
Hold on just a second. There is no benefit to being taxed. This whole idea that we're doing you a favor by taking less of your money is kind of ridiculous. It is not a benefit. It is not something you're receiving. It's just the government forcing you to give them less money. I'll admit that we have to have some taxes. I like having a right-sized police force, and I think it's pretty cool that we have firemen, and I do enjoy driving on smooth roads. But let's not for a minute think that when I pay for something, it's somehow a benefit. My diatribe aside, let's continue.
But friends of ours in Teton County, theirs has gone up 104%. So if you give them a 50% cut, they're lacking 54%. So what this bill does, it looks at 50% off the actual increase of every resident in Wyoming. So the sheet that our good department that deals with revenue came up with, this would be the average in the county. Now we can do this by an average, or we can easily do it individually. But if you look, that second column, that takes off the exemption for the homeowners. So that would really be that true number. If you look at Niobrara County, the hit to their county would be $70,951. Not a very big cut, but that's half of what the increase would be. Teton County is over $21 million, but guess what? That's where all that extra revenue has been going. So to me, this was the most fair and equitable way to do this. I look forward to everyone's discussion. Our best legislation comes through a collaboration of ideas and open communication and working through this process. So I'll be looking forward to what everybody else thinks about this. Ideas, we can make some changes tomorrow. I put in a $2 million cap that's open for discussion. We could say $500,000, or we could say no exemption. Treat all property the same. I did not put in owner occupied. I really like the owner occupied. That's consistent with our other bills. But again, we can talk about that tomorrow. And then I'm not a fan of backfill, especially here. This puts some onus on the local governments to make some cuts because they've had some really big increases. It also puts a little bit ownership on the owners of the property because as your value's gone up, you're getting a benefit in that. When you go sell that house, you should have to pay some of the taxes on that. So that was my thinking on here.
So a tax cut based on the increase in your property taxes on your house. Seems pretty fair to me. One problem I see with this is the presumption that prices have gone up 50% since 2019, because this is what this amendment is assuming, that from 2019 to today, the price of everything has gone up 50%, which would necessitate the 50% increase in property taxes. But I don't think that that's necessarily the case. Certainly, inflation has not gone up 50% in 5 years, maybe 20, but definitely not 50. Third reading on Senate File 69 in the House is going to happen tomorrow. No doubt there's going to be changes made to Clouston's amendment, and we'll have to see what those look like. But I'll keep you posted what it's going to end up being. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the program. That way you can be notified every single time there's a brand new episode of Cowboy State Politics. To do that, go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. For now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is the one and only Cowboy State Politics.